Hello, welcome back to the Board Games 4K YouTube channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. Generally like to talk a load of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general, and in this video we're going to be talking about a game based on a very famous movie license. We're going to be talking about Jaws, and this is a game that's split into two parts. The first act where you'll be running around the island trying to amass stuff that will make the second act easier, and then you've got the second act where you'll be out in a boat trying to survive the onslaught from the great white shark. Right, so in this video we'll be giving you a very brief overview of the rules. We'll be telling you what we do like, what we don't like, then we'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Jaws is worth your time and bother today and in the future. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below. We'll see you after this. Board Games 4K. So, Jaws, how'd you play this game? So Jaws is an asymmetrical game that is split into two acts. You've got the Amity Island act, and then you've got the act on the Orca where you'll be out on the sea. The crew will win the game if they eliminate the shark, and the shark will win if it either eliminates the crew or destroys the Orca. Right, so in the first act you will have three different phases to this game. You'll have the event phase, you'll have the shark phase, and then you'll have the crew phase. The event phase is really easy. All you do is you will reveal the next event phase and you will resolve it. So when you resolve an event card, you look at the card and then you'll go from top to bottom and you'll resolve the card in that order. So the card tells you where to place the swimmer tokens. The board is divided up into north, south, east and west beaches, and you'll take a swimmer token and you'll place one token into the region that the card tells you to chuck them, right? There's also something else you got to do on the card at the bottom. Some of the event cards that may be drawn are the 4th of July card, and this tells you that before placing swimmers, open all beaches. Beaches cannot be closed this round. Or you might have the holiday roast. What? And this says the docks are under repair, barrels cannot be dropped at or picked up from either dock this round. Obviously you ain't going to understand what the hell I'm talking about unless you played the game, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Right, so the next phase is the shark phase, and this is where you will activate the shark, right? So the shark can take up to 3 actions, and they've got a choice of 2 different actions. They can move, which means they can move to an adjacent space but not diagonal. And when you move, you'll take your little pad of paper and you'll mark down which area you've moved to, but you won't actually move the shark token or tell the crew where you've moved. It's up to the crew to find out where you are. This is like a sort of a Scotland Yard type hidden movement, very simple hidden movement mechanism. So the second action you can take is you can eat one swimmer, and that's what you really like to do because sharks do get kind of hungry. And what you do, once you have eaten a swimmer, you will tell the crew how many swimmers that you have eaten, but you won't tell them where you've eaten them, right? So it gives them sort of like a mini clue as to where you may or may not be. So the shark also has different power tokens that they can use on their turn. You might want to use the feeding frenzy power token, in which case you'll eat all swimmers in your space as one action as opposed to eating just the one. You might have the evasive moves, and this means that you do not trigger motion sensors this round even if you move through spaces with floating barrels. Or you might have the speed burst, in which case you'll be able to move 3 spaces per action because sharks sometimes like to go to amphetamine sulfate parties. So once the shark has done everything that the shark wants to do or likes to do, then you'll move on to the crew phase. There's 3 crew members. You've got Quint, you've got Brody and you've got Hooper. Each crew member may take up to 4 actions, and each crew member has different asymmetrical actions. Quint can move to an adjacent space, he can rescue 1 swimmer, he can pick up any number of barrels in your space from a dock or the water or Hooper's boat, or he can launch a barrel, in which case you'll place a barrel token in an adjacent space. And if a shark moves into a space with a barrel, then you'll attach the barrel to the shark. If there's ever 3 barrels on the shark, then you'll move on to the second act where you will be facing off against a shark in the Orca. So Brody has several actions. He tends to stay on land because he's a bit of a coward when it comes to water, because he doesn't like chumming shit. So Brody can move, he can rescue a swimmer, he can pick up a barrel at the shop, he can drop a barrel at the dock, or he can use binoculars. And what this means is that if you use a binoculars token, the shark must announce if they are in the water at the beach, and if they are, then you place the little shark token in that space. Or Bodie can close a beach, in which case you'll take the beach close token and you'll place it in a spot, and that means that no swimmers actually be placed in that space. And in the next turn, then you'll take the token off the board. So this is a good way of preventing swimmers from swimming in certain areas. So if you play hooper, you can move, you can rescue a swimmer, you can pick up barrels from the dock or a water space, you can give barrels to Quint, or you can use the fish finder. And basically what the fish finder does, the shark must announce where they are in relation to the fish finder. So if the shark is in the same space, they must tell you. If the shark's in an adjacent space, they must tell you they're nearby. And if the shark is in neither space, then they don't have to say diddly squat, right? So Act 1 will end if there's 3 barrels attached to the shark, or if the swimmer track on the shark doodah goes up to 9, right? Once you've done that, you'll wipe everything off and you'll flip the board over and you'll go on to Act 2.
I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chum some of this shit.
Act 2 is a little bit more complicated. We're not going to dwell on this too much, right? But there's 6 phases to the second act. You've got the resurface options, you've got shark chooses, you've got the crew prepares, the shark reveal phase, the crew attacks phase, and the shark attacks phase. So basically the first thing you're going to do, the shark player is going to reveal several shark resurfaces cards. You look at the cards and then you'll see that you've got the different resurface zones on each card, right? And you'll place markers on each of them zones, and this is where the shark may or may not be able to appear. So then the shark will choose where the shark is going to appear. The crew will then be able to move around the boat. They'll be able to equip different types of stuff to each player. You might have the pistol, and this means that after the shark reveals their resurface token, you may move your target token to an adjacent water space. You might have the baseball bat, in which case if your attack misses, re-roll both dice and the new results are final. Or you might have the flare, and this is a token that attaches to the shark, denoted by the hook token in the top left hand corner, and the flare says while attached, at the end of each round the shark must roll 1 die and take that many wounds. So there's loads and loads and loads of different types of equipment that the crew can use in their battle against old Jaws, you know what I mean? So after you've equipped all your stuff, then the shark will reveal itself. You place the shark marker token in one of the spaces where you placed the token earlier in the act. So the shark will then attack the boat. You roll the dice and then you'll add up the number of hits, and this may or may not change depending on what the crew are carrying, and you'll add that number of hits to the boat. You can attack a crew member if they're in the sea space, and generally crew members end up in sea spaces if you have destroyed a portion of the orca. The next thing you do is the crew will attack. They use a melee weapon or a firearms weapon. Melee weapons can only be used in the space that you're in. Firearms weapons can be used anywhere you like, and you roll the dice and the shark will take that number of hits, and this can change dependent on what the crew is using, right? So once you've done all this, you'll keep going until either the orca's been destroyed, or the crew members have died, or the crew members have blown up the shark, and whoever does that first will be the winner of Jaws. What do we like about Jaws? So the first thing that we really like about it is the way that the game is split up into 2 acts. It almost feels as if you're getting 2 games for the price of 1, and the rule book does actually give you rules to split the game up into 2 different bits. So you don't actually have to play the first act and the second act next to each other. You can just play the first act if that's what you want, or you can just play the second act if that's what you want. And it really does feel as if you're getting more bang for your buck in this one. They could have just released the first bit and done that like Jurassic Park type thing, you know, where you're just roaming around the island, but they didn't. They added the second act to this, and it really does feel like you're getting good value for money with this one. So the second thing that we really like about Jaws is the way that the second act is directly influenced by the first act, because depending on how much damage the crew does to the shark in the first round, that's how well equipped they're going to be to deal with the shark in the second act. So it's in your interest to do as much in the first act, because it will make your task in the second act a lot easier. So the third thing that we really like about this game is the simple but yet highly effective hidden movement. Whereas games like Scotland Yard have easy to understand hidden movement mechanisms, this game's got the same sort of thing, but it's not the sole focus of the first portion of the game. It's really interesting when you're playing a shark player to try and fool the other players into thinking that you're in one spot, because if you just gobbled up all the swimmers that you wanted in order to increase your chances of winning the second act, you're going to reveal where you are to the crew. So you might want to just maybe eat 1 or 2 to make them think you're in another space. So yeah, the hidden movement aspect in this, it's really simple, but yeah, it's really subtle at the same time. So what don't we like about Jaws? So the first thing that we don't like about Jaws, or well, it's not a case of not liking it, but we would have preferred had the crew cards had pictures of the guys from the movies, you know what I mean? But maybe this is based actually on the book. We don't really know that it's based on the movie or the book. But it would have been nice to have had pictures of Brody, Hooper and Quint on the cards, because it would have just made the theme that little bit more prominent in this one. So the second thing that we don't like about Jaws is that the resurfaced cards seem to unbalance the game just that little bit, because if you draw the same resurfaced card with the same red square on it, the sharks' options are going to be limited, and the crew is going to have a massive advantage because they're going to have more chance of catching the shark, right? And we do find that if all the characters have ranged weapons, then the choice of where the crew goes on the boat is sort of minimised. It's not really that important where they're going to be going to, you know what I mean? So the third thing that we don't like about Jaws is that the second act is a hell of a lot more complicated to get your head around than the first act. You sort of walk into this game reading the rules thinking, right, we got this. This is really easy to learn. The first act, we can do this. It's really, really simple. You can play this with young kids. It's a doddle to get into. And when you flip that board over and you go into the second act, it starts to get a little bit of a mind fuck. Whereas there was 3 phases in the first act, there's 6 phases in the second act, and there's all these little nuances when you're talking about all the different exceptions on the cards. You know, there's confusion as to what constitutes a sea space. There just seems to be a little bit of a disconnect where you've got the simplicity and the streamlinedness of the first act that's replaced with a clunky, unwieldy second act. So to summarise, is Jaws worth your time and bother today and in the future? So we are going to say yes. This board game is a really, really good thematic representation of the movie or book, depending on which side of the fence you sit on. It provides great value for money by giving you 2 games for the price of 1. Okay, they're very, very small and very light games, but the fact that the designers have given you the option of playing just the 1 game and the second game means that you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck with this one. Ravensburger continues to push the boat out with its movie licenses. You had the excellent Jurassic Park Danger, and now you've got Jaws. There is a Top Gun game, we haven't played that. I haven't really got high hopes for that one. We're not going to talk about that one. So yeah, as long as Ravensburger keep pushing out these fantastic movie games, we're going to keep buying them. So we're going to give Jaws 4 out of 5 if you enjoy movie tie-ins, if you enjoy a little bit of hidden movement, and you enjoy a good face-off with a great white shark, then Jaws is highly recommended by us. So there you go. That's Jaws. Remember, if you're new here, please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below. We'll see you next time.